Graneshia. Fun fact, dung or animal poop was and is still used in some countries as a form of heat, fuel, fertilizer, and even energy. Now, by a show of hands, how many of you eat meat? Okay. And how many of you may know someone with type 1 diabetes or heart problems? Okay, from your responses, I think it's safe for me to claim that people depend on domesticated animals to help sustain human life. And I'll do this by explaining 3 different points. 1, humans would still be in the hunter-gatherer stage if it were not for the domestication of animals. 2, we need animal byproducts such as meat, milk, and eggs to help sustain our human diet. 3, animal research has led to dozens of medical breakthroughs benefiting humans. Now, my first supporting point being humans would still be in the hunter-gatherer stage if it were not for the domestication of animals. As illustrated in Cluton Brock's Cambridge University Press article, A Natural History of Domesticated Mammals, domesticated animals is defined as those who have been bred in captivity for purposes of economic profit to the human community with complete control over breeding, territory, and food supply. Now, Peter Cheeky, author of a number of agricultural books, including Contemporary Issues in Agriculture, and a professor of animal sciences at Oregon State University, states that early humans, Homo erectus, traveled on foot and would hunt meat. Because of the domestication of animals, people had to go really far to go, Because of the domestication of animals, people didn't have to go very far for their meat, as he or she owned a small herd of goat or cattle. People adopted agricultural practices, grew different crops, breeding cows and chickens for meat, eggs, and milk. Horses were used to travel, cows for grazing, buffalo for cultivating. Man could now start families. Overall healthier, weighed more, happier. He even had more food for his family before food was scarce. Agriculture allowed people to settle, create communities. Trades began, markets formed, as well as other jobs. According to Peter Cheeky, over 50% of the world's land is worked by draft animals, 240 million cattle, 60 million buffalo. Now, some might argue humans are smart. Evolution and natural selection would have taken over, and communities and settlements would have followed. But Peter Cheeky's research on human societies and food proves no human society lacking domestic animals has ever evolved beyond the primitive hunter-gatherer stage. Which brings me to my second point. Animal byproducts such as meat, milk, and eggs are essential to the human diet. Because of our ancestors and the history of the human diet, we adapted to and prefer a high-energy diet, i.e. fats and sweets. For example, we prefer white bread over wheat bread. Meat protein has a higher digestibility of 92 to 100% opposed to plants, only 80%. In fact, the University of Arizona Press article, The Origin of Human Diet in Medicine, states hunter-gatherers consume much more protein than us and were overall healthy. Animal protein has higher nutritional value than plant proteins in terms of amino acids, minerals, and vitamins, as said by Cheeky in his 1998 article. Now, milk and eggs alone are nutritionally significant to a healthy diet. Eggs are enriched in omega-3 fatty acids, which is an amino acid that we cannot synthesize ourselves, while cow's milk can be fed to a human baby and prevent osteoporosis, which is a reduction in bone mass. Bone is made up of different things like calcium, and we can actually absorb it and rebuild our bones. Now, according to the National Research Council article, Diet and Health, Implications of Reducing Chronic Disease Risk, up to 40% of women by the age of 65 experience osteoporotic fractures. Cheeky's article, Natural Toxins in Feeds and Forages in Poisonous Plants, says that plant proteins contain toxins like phytates, trispin inhibitors, lectins, and alkaloids. Matter of factly, most people strongly believe that humans can thrive as vegetarians. But as found by P.R. Henney, author of Soybean Phytate Content, Effect on Calcium Absorption, it has proved that most non-meat eaters use soy as a substitute. And soy, in fact, has the toxin phytate, which has been proven to reduce calcium by up to 20%, aiding in debilitating diseases like osteoporosis. Now, bringing me to my last point, animal research has led to dozens of medical breakthroughs benefiting humans, including vaccines against smallpox, measles, mumps, and tetanus, treatment against AIDS, child leukemia, multiple sclerosis, and pancreatic cancer. Now, who would think pigs were good for anything besides bacon? But they, in fact, help us a lot. A pig's neck lining has actually been used for heart valves, and it can be used from ages 0 through 100, from baby pigs to adult pigs, and it'll help the blood flow of the blood flow to the heart. And pigs also help us with 2nd to 3rd degree burns. Pig skin is used on a burn, so that way our own skin can mimic it and it regrows itself. And condoms was made from pig intestines, which has prevented millions of AIDS, HIV, STD, and even bacterial infections, which has been proven to happen just by the contact of 2 different human fluids. Now, dogs. Who would think dogs would be more than just our man's best friend? But in fact, they help derive insulin from a dog's pancreas, which was one of the first major breakthroughs for type 1 diabetes. Now, and type 1 diabetes affects mostly children and young adults like ourselves, our ages. And they also come in forms of canines, cop canines, seeing eye dogs, compassionate animals, and rescue animals. Now, these are just 2 of the special species who have taught us more about medicine and human medicine. However, most would argue that animal research is wrong, arguing that animal life is equal to a human life. Peter Cheeky research and testing concludes humans can combine love, logic, language, culture, imagination, and time consciousness, just to name a few, while animals are not capable of possessing all of these traits in one. Veterinarian and president of California Veterinary Medical Association, John Klimberg, says, "These animals are heroes. Their contribution to discovering life-saving advances in medicine and science for both pets and humans is enormous." In conclusion, I hope to have shown you how and why animals are important to humans. Civilization, food, and better health are just some things influenced by the domestication of animals. Now, it is not enough for you just to agree with me, but to appreciate them as gifts that we have learned not to live without. And I think Peter Cheeky says it clearest. The history of modern humans is intertwined with that of the domestication of animals.
Okay, the opening's pretty good. I think that you state the proposition clearly. I'm not exactly sure what the context of the argument is. I think that you need to give us a little bit more of an explanation about why it's important for us to get this information, because so much of it sounds like an historical review of this theory, and the reason that we're getting it is because apparently somebody thinks that the use of animals is unnecessary, or that it's been problematic, or it's created substantial issues for human beings. And I think that you need to give that as a context for the argument. I thought you had an excellent setup of what the secondary claims are going to be, and you signposted those very clearly while you were speaking. Most of the time you had good source citations, although if I heard from Peter Cheeky one more time, I think I could adopt him and make him one of my dependents that I can declare on my income taxes here. So you got a little bit more of his comments in the speech, and I think you want to have some outside information as well. The third point really seems to me to be a subject that would be more appropriate for a separate speech, and that the first couple of points really have to do with human development and the culture and the change in the way human beings exist in the ecosystem that's going on. The third point all just seems like it's on a completely separate issue. So I think I would probably have severed that third point, either made it the subject of the speech or cut it out completely and stuck with the first two things. All right, I got to cut it off here because we did go